Look, if you've never been to Zephyr Station, let me paint you a picture. It's the kind of place where the air recyclers wheeze like an old man climbing stairs, and the lighting flickers, just enough to make you wonder if today's the day the whole place finally gives up and implodes. But the cantina? Oh, the cantina is where the real magic happens. And by magic I mean where every species in the galaxy comes to lie about how tough they are. The rusty Nebula Cantina sits right in the station's belly, all chrome and neon and the kind of atmosphere that screams someone's definitely getting into a fight tonight. Tonight was no different. The usual crowd had gathered around the central bar like moths to a flame, except these moths had claws, fangs, and serious attitude problems. Behind the bar stood Quinn Reeves, human, 5'6", brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and the kind of calm expression that suggested she'd seen every possible variety of galactic nonsense at least twice. She wiped down glasses with the methodical patience of someone who'd learned that alien bar fights usually sorted themselves out if you just waited long enough. At the far end of the bar, Krax was holding court. Picture a crocodile that hit the gym religiously for about 30 years, then decided to walk upright and develop an ego the size of a small moon. His scales caught the bar's neon lights as he gestured wildly, regaling anyone within earshot about his latest conquest. So there I was, Krax rumbled, his voice like gravel in a cement mixer, face to face with a Titan crusher on Gorvax Prime. Thing was the size of a cargo hauler, mandibles that could snap a starship in half. He flexed muscles that probably had their own zip codes. Did I run? Did I call for backup? He paused for dramatic effect. I wrestled that beast to the ground with my bare claws. Across from him, Vortana clicked her mandibles in what might have been amusement or annoyance. She was insectoid, all sharp angles and chitinous armor, with compound eyes that missed absolutely nothing. Titan crushers, she buzzed dismissively. Child's play. Last cycle I tracked a Void Stalker through the Crimson Nebula for 3 standard days. No weapons, no backup, just me in the endless dark. Void Stalkers are practically extinct, scoffed a Tellurian from the corner booth, his blue skin shimmering with indignation. Exactly my point, Vortana replied smoothly. I'm very good at what I do. Quinn set down a fresh drink in front of Krax without being asked. She'd learned his patterns months ago. 3 drinks in, he started with the Titan Crusher story. 5 drinks, and he'd move on to the tale about the acid-spitting razor worms. It was like clockwork, really. Humans, Krax continued, apparently just noticing Quinn's presence. Now there's a species that knows how to stay in their lane. Soft pink things, no natural weapons, probably cry when they see a spider. He chuckled, a sound like rocks tumbling down a cliff. Quinn didn't look up from the glass she was polishing. We have our moments, she said mildly. Oh, I'm sure you do, Vortana chimed in, her tone dripping with condescension. I hear Earth has some truly fearsome creatures. Like those, what do you call them? House cats. The assembled aliens erupted in laughter. Quinn just smiled and reached for another glass. Krax wasn't done yet. Oh no, 3 drinks in and he was just getting warmed up. He slammed his empty glass down on the bar with enough force to make the bottles rattle. You want to hear about real danger? Let me tell you about the time I faced down a whole pack of Titan crushers. I thought you said it was just one, called out a Voldorian from the back, his blue-furred face twisted in skepticism. Krax waved dismissively. That was last week. This was the time before that. Or maybe the time before that. Point is, I've wrestled more Titan crushers than you've had hot meals. He puffed out his chest. These beasts, they're 12 feet tall, armed with natural weapons that could cut through hull plating, and they hunt in coordinated packs. Most sentients see one and immediately file insurance claims. Vortana's compound eyes glittered with competitive irritation. Titan crushers are ground-based prey animals. Try hunting something that exists in the vacuum of space. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to what she probably thought was a dramatic whisper. Void stalkers don't just hunt you, they hunt your thoughts. They can sense fear from 3-star systems away. Oh come on, laughed a Grixian trader, his tentacles waving skeptically. Everyone knows Void stalkers are just spacer legends. Are they? Vortana's mandibles clicked ominously. Tell that to the crew of the merchant vessel I found drifting in the outer rim. Empty ship, no signs of struggle, but every single crew member was found curled up in corners, apparently scared to death. That's the Void stalker's signature kill. Quinn refilled Vortana's drink, a nasty green concoction that probably violated several health codes. Sounds rough, she commented conversationally. Rough? Vortana buzzed with indignation. I tracked that creature for 72 standard hours through an asteroid field. No sleep, no food, just pure hunter instinct. When I finally cornered it, the thing was the size of a small frigate. All shadow and teeth and this horrible screaming that echoed through the vacuum itself. "And you killed it how exactly?" asked Krax, clearly annoyed that the spotlight had shifted away from him. "With patience, skill, and a ceremonial blade passed down through 6 generations of my hive clan," Vortana preened. "The blade is now mounted in my trophy room, along with one of the creature's primary hunting tentacles." A Yeperian in the corner booth raised his glass. "To hunters who don't need energy weapons to prove their worth." The cantina erupted in approving cheers. Well, most of it. Quinn just kept polishing glasses, occasionally glancing up at the growing crowd of braggarts with the kind of expression you'd reserve for particularly entertaining children. "What about you, Voldorian?" Krax called out. "What's the nastiest thing you've faced?" The blue-furred alien straightened up proudly. "Shadow serpents of Vega 7, 30 feet long, completely invisible except for their heat signature, and they move faster than most people can think. I've bagged 3 of them." 3. Vortana scoffed. "I've lost count of how many void stalkers I've eliminated. It's practically a hobby at this point." "Oh, we're keeping count now." Krax rumbled dangerously. "Because I've personally ended 17 Titan Crushers, 43 Razor Worms, and 1 Omega Predator that was terrorizing an entire moon colony." The lies were getting bigger, the voices louder, and Quinn noticed more aliens drifting over from other tables. Nothing drew a crowd like a good old-fashioned pissing contest, especially when the participants had that many teeth between them. "You know what I think?" Quinn said casually, setting down a fresh round of drinks. "I think you're all very brave." The words hung in the air for a moment before Krax erupted in laughter. "Very brave. Honey, brave doesn't even begin to cover it. We're talking about apex predators here, creatures that exist solely to end other creatures. Most species develop their entire defense strategies around avoiding these things." "Oh, I have a pet back home," Quinn mentioned offhandedly, like she was discussing the weather. The conversation didn't even pause. Vortana was already launching into another story about hunting something called a phantom shrieker, and Krax was making increasingly dramatic gestures about the time he fought 2 Titan Crushers simultaneously. Quinn shrugged, and went back to her glasses. "Their loss, really. Now here's the thing about regulars at dive bars across the galaxy. They might be self-absorbed braggarts with the collective listening skills of a deaf asteroid, but they eventually notice patterns." And Quinn had been working the Rusty Nebula for almost 2 standard years, which was long enough for even the most ego-driven warriors to start paying attention. It was Grix, the tentacled traitor, who finally caught on. He'd been nursing the same drink for an hour, mostly because Grixian alcohol tolerance was legendarily terrible, and he'd actually been listening instead of planning his next boast. Wait, Grix interrupted, his tentacles waving for attention. "Did the human just say she has a pet?" The bragging circle ground to a halt like a cargo hauler hitting an asteroid field. Suddenly, every eye, compound eye, and optical sensor in the place was focused on Quinn, who looked up from her glass polishing with mild surprise. "Oh, did I mention Luna? Yeah, she's back on Earth with my sister while I'm out here." Krax's laugh could have powered a small generator. "A pet. Of course the human has a pet. Let me guess, some kind of furry mammal that fetches sticks and makes adorable noises." "Something like that," Quinn said diplomatically. Vortana's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Oh, this should be rich. Tell us, Quinn, what kind of fearsome earth beast have you managed to domesticate? A rabbit? A hamster?" Her compound eyes glittered with malicious humor. "Please tell me it's one of those legendary earth cats we keep hearing about." The cantina erupted in fresh laughter. Even the Voldorian in the corner was chuckling, his blue fur rippling with mirth. "Come on, Quinn," called out a Zephyrian from near the door. "We've all shared our stories about facing down the galaxy's most dangerous predators. What's your contribution to the conversation?" Quinn paused in her glass cleaning and looked around the room. Every alien present was grinning, waiting for the punchline to what they assumed was going to be the galaxy's most anticlimactic creature story. "Well," Quinn said slowly, "I do have some pictures on my communicator." This triggered another wave of laughter. Krax slapped the bar so hard it left a dent. "Pictures? Oh, this is perfect. The human has pictures of her precious little pet. Show us," Vortana demanded, her voice dripping with condescending excitement. "We simply must see this terrifying earth creature." "I don't know," Quinn said, pulling out her communication device and scrolling through it with deliberate casualness. "You guys seem pretty worked up about your own stories. I wouldn't want to interrupt." "Nonsense," boomed a Corvin from the back booth. We insist. Consider it a cultural exchange. Quinn glanced around the room again, taking in all the expectant faces, the barely contained laughter, the general atmosphere of beings absolutely certain they were about to witness the most adorable thing in galactic history. Okay, she said finally. But you might want to sit down first. This triggered the biggest laugh yet. Krax actually wiped tears from his reptilian eyes. Sit down. Oh, that's rich. What's it going to be, Quinn? Is your pet going to be so overwhelmingly cute that we faint from the sheer adorableness? Or maybe, Vortana added, it's so pathetically small we'll injure ourselves laughing. Quinn's finger hovered over her communicator screen. She looked up one more time, meeting the gaze of every smug alien face in the room. Don't say I didn't warn you, she said, and tapped the screen. The laughter died instantly. Not gradually, not with a few trailing chuckles, but like someone had thrown a switch and cut the power to the entire cantina's sense of humor. On Quinn's communicator screen, clear as starlight, was a photograph of what was unmistakably a baby picture. The kind of baby picture proud pet parents showed to anyone who'd stand still long enough. Except this particular baby was about 3 feet long, covered in distinctive diamond-patterned scales, and had the kind of triangular head that suggested it grew up eating things significantly larger than kibble. Quinn smiled sweetly. This is Luna when she was just a few months old. Isn't she precious? The silence in the rusty nebula was the kind of profound quiet you usually only get in deep space, right before something catastrophically expensive explodes. Every alien in the cantina was staring at Quinn's communicator screen like it had just shown them footage of their own funeral. Grix was the first to find his voice, though it came out as more of a strangled whisper. That's a snake. Well, technically she's a python. Quinn corrected helpfully, swiping to the next photo. This one's from when she was about 6 months old. Look how much she'd grown. The second photo showed the same distinctive diamond pattern, but now the snake was considerably longer, coiled around what appeared to be a tree branch. A very thick tree branch. The kind of tree branch that suggested this baby could probably use a telephone pole as a comfortable perch. Krax's brain seemed to be experiencing some kind of processing error. His massive jaws worked silently for several seconds before he managed to croak out, "You keep a snake as a pet. Keep." Quinn looked genuinely confused. Oh no, Luna's not kept anywhere. She lives with us. She's family. She swiped again. This is her favorite sunny spot in our backyard. She likes to nap there after meals. The third photo made several aliens actually take a step backward. Luna was now clearly adult-sized, or at least what most rational beings would consider adult-sized, stretched out across what looked like an entire patio. Her body was easily as thick as a grown human's torso, and her length, well, her length disappeared off the edge of the photo frame. How big is she now? Vortana asked, her voice pitched about 3 octaves higher than usual. Quinn paused to consider this, tilting her head like she was doing mental math. Oh, about 12 feet long, give or take. She's still growing though. Burmese pythons can get up to 20 feet if they're really well cared for. The Valdorian in the corner made a sound like air escaping from a punctured hull. 20 feet, that's just the length. Quinn continued conversationally, apparently oblivious to the growing horror around her. She's also beautifully thick. Probably weighs about as much as a small speeder bike at this point. She beamed with obvious pride. My sister says she's been putting on weight since I've been away. I think she misses me. Krax, who minutes earlier had been boasting about wrestling creatures the size of cargo haulers, was now gripping his drink with enough force to leave claw marks in the metal. And this creature lives in your house. Of course, where else would she live? Quinn swiped to another photo. This is her favorite indoor spot. She likes to watch television from the couch. The photo showed Luna draped across an entire sectional sofa like a living, breathing throw blanket. Except this throw blanket had a head the size of a dinner plate, and eyes that suggested she was actively judging the programming choices. She watches television, Grix repeated slowly, like he was trying to convince himself he'd heard correctly. Oh, she loves nature documentaries, gets really excited when they show other snakes. Sometimes she'll lift her head and watch really intently. Quinn's expression was the picture of fond pet-parent affection. She's incredibly intelligent, you know. Snakes are much smarter than people give them credit for. A Tellurian near the back of the crowd raised a trembling blue hand. What do you feed something like that? Quinn brightened, clearly delighted someone had asked about her pet's care routine. Well, she only eats about once a month, which is really convenient. Usually it's a rabbit or a chicken, but sometimes we'll get her a small pig as a treat. She paused thoughtfully. Actually, last time I was home, my sister had gotten her a young deer. Luna was so excited she did this happy little wiggle dance before she ate it. The phrase happy little wiggle dance hung in the air like a toxic gas cloud. Every alien in the cantina was now imagining a 12-foot python doing something that could generously be described as dancing, and none of them looked particularly thrilled about it. She ate a deer, Vortana whispered. A whole deer. Oh, absolutely whole. Quinn confirmed cheerfully. That's how pythons eat. They're constrictors, you see, so they wrap around their prey and squeeze until it stops breathing. Then they unhinge their jaws and swallow it in one piece. It's really quite remarkable from an evolutionary standpoint. She swiped to another photo, this one showing Luna mid-meal. The image was artistically framed to show just enough to make it clear that something considerably larger than a mouse was disappearing down her throat, while still maintaining the wholesome family pet photo aesthetic. The whole process takes about 4 to 6 hours. Quinn continued in the same tone she might use to discuss her grandmother's cookie recipe. We usually put on a movie marathon and just hang out with her while she works. It's actually very peaceful. Meditative. Almost. Crax's voice came out as barely more than a croak. You sit with it while it eats. Of course, that's when she's most vulnerable. Wild pythons are usually pretty defensive during feeding, but Luna trusts us completely. Sometimes she'll even let us pet her while she's eating. Quinn's smile could have powered a small space station. She's such a sweetheart. The Corvin in the back booth suddenly stood up, mumbled something about remembering an urgent appointment, and practically sprinted for the exit. His departure seemed to break some kind of spell, and several other aliens began making similar excuses and heading for the door. Quinn watched them go with mild confusion. Was it something I said? The remaining aliens exchanged glances like survivors of a shuttle crash trying to figure out who was going to break the bad news to the rescue team. Crax, who had somehow managed to maintain his grip on both his drink and his sanity, cleared his throat with the sound of grinding machinery. Quinn, he said very carefully, like he was defusing an antimatter bomb with his voice, when you say Luna lives with you, you mean in a cage, right? A very strong cage, with multiple locks and perhaps a security system. Quinn blinked at him with genuine surprise. A cage. Why would I put my pet in a cage? She swiped to another photo, this one showing Luna stretched across a kitchen floor, her massive coils extending from the refrigerator all the way to the breakfast table. She has free run of the house. Well, mostly. We had to move some furniture around after she got too big to fit under the coffee table. Vortana made a sound like a malfunctioning air recycler. She just roams around your house freely. Of course, she's part of the family. Quinn's expression was radiating the kind of wholesome warmth usually reserved for holiday greeting cards. Look, this is from last winter when we were decorating for Christmas. She was so curious about the tree. The photo showed Luna wrapped around a Christmas tree like the world's most terrifying tinsel, her head poking out near the star, wearing what appeared to be a festive red bow around her neck. Several wrapped presents were visible beneath her coils, apparently unbothered by the fact that they were being guarded by enough predator to stalk a small nightmare. You put a bow on it, Grix whispered. You put a Christmas bow on a 12-foot python. She loves accessories, Quinn said proudly. My sister got her this adorable little Santa hat too, but she kept shaking it off. I think the elastic bothered her. She scrolled to another photo. This is her helping with laundry day. The image showed Luna investigating a laundry basket. Her substantial bulk draped across what appeared to be an entire load of freshly folded clothes. Her head was buried deep in the basket, apparently fascinated by the concept of clean linens. She's very helpful around the house. Quinn continued. Great for reaching things in high places, excellent at finding lost items under furniture, and she's amazing for home security. Nobody's ever tried to break in twice. I wonder why, Vortana muttered. Quinn either didn't hear the sarcasm or chose to ignore it. Oh, and she's wonderful with guests once they get used to her. Very social. She likes to greet people at the door. She swiped again, revealing a photo that made the remaining Tellurian actually grab the bar for support. Luna was positioned in what was clearly an entryway, her massive coils arranged in a way that completely blocked the front door. Her head raised to about human chest height in what could generously be described as a welcoming pose, if you were the kind of person who found apex predators welcoming. That's her saying hello. Quinn explained. She always gets excited when we have company. Sometimes she'll follow visitors around the house just to make sure they're comfortable. Crax's voice cracked like thermal stress on a hull plate. Follow them around. She's very attentive. If someone sits down, she'll usually come over to see if they need anything. She's particularly good with children. Quinn's smile could have melted asteroid ice. Kids love her. They're not afraid, like adults sometimes are. The children aren't afraid, the Valdorian repeated slowly. Of a 12-foot python. Well, why would they be? She's never hurt anyone. She's incredibly gentle. Quinn pulled up another photo showing Luna with what appeared to be a small human child sitting directly on her back, both of them positioned in front of a television. This is my nephew Jake. He uses her as a couch when he comes over. She doesn't mind at all. The photo was remarkably wholesome in a way that made it infinitely more terrifying. The child looked completely relaxed, probably watching cartoons while casually draped across enough constrictor muscle to compress a small vehicle into scrap metal. Your nephew, Vortana said faintly, sits on the snake. Luna, Quinn corrected. And yes, she makes an excellent seat. Very comfortable, and she's always exactly the right temperature. Jake says she's better than the fancy massage chairs at the mall. Grick's tentacles were starting to twitch in what his species typically displayed when approaching complete psychological breakdown. How did you even get this creature? Did you capture it? Import it from some exotic dealer? Oh no, nothing like that, Quinn said, brightening even further. I found her when she was just a baby. Someone had abandoned her in a parking lot. Can you believe that? She was so tiny and scared, probably only about 2 feet long. I couldn't just leave her there. She swiped to what appeared to be the very first photo in the sequence, showing a much younger Quinn holding what looked like an admittedly adorable baby snake. Small enough to coil around her forearm like a living bracelet. She was so sweet. Quinn continued, her voice taking on the nostalgic tone of someone remembering a particularly touching moment. She wrapped right around my wrist and fell asleep. I think she knew I was going to take care of her. You found it as a baby, Crax said slowly. And you decided to keep it. Well, I couldn't take her to a shelter. Most places won't take reptiles, and the ones that do usually don't have proper care facilities. So I did some research, set up a proper habitat, learned about python care, and just took her home. Quinn shrugged, like this was the most natural thing in the galaxy. Best decision I ever made. She's been with me for 8 years now. 8 years, Vortana whispered. You've been living with this creature for 8 years. Living with Luna, Quinn corrected again. And she's not just any python, you know. Burmese pythons are incredibly intelligent. She recognizes her name, comes when called, and she's even learned some basic commands. Watch this. Quinn tapped her communicator, and a video began playing. The sound was tinny through the device's small speakers, but they could clearly hear Quinn's voice calling. Luna, come here, sweetheart. The camera panned across what appeared to be a living room. And then Luna appeared, moving with surprising grace and speed, flowing toward the camera like a muscular river. Good girl, Quinn's recorded voice cooed as Luna approached. Who's my beautiful girl? The Luna in the video responded by lifting her massive head and gently bumping it against the camera, a gesture that was unmistakably affectionate. Her tongue flicked out briefly, and Quinn's laughter could be heard clearly. She gives kisses, Quinn explained to her increasingly catatonic audience. Python kisses are the best, their tongues are how they smell and taste the world. So when she does that, she's basically giving you a hug. The video ended, leaving the cantina in the kind of silence usually reserved for memorial services. Finally the Valdorian spoke up, his voice barely audible. You said she's still growing. Quinn nodded enthusiastically. Oh yes, she's got at least a few more years of growth left. Burmese pythons can live for 20 to 30 years, and they keep growing their whole lives. By the time she's fully mature, she could be anywhere from 18 to 25 feet long. She paused, considering this with obvious delight. My sister's already talking about getting a bigger house. The current one might be a bit cramped once Luna reaches her full size. Crax set his drink down very carefully, and looked around at his fellow aliens. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. Humans routinely adopt creatures that grow to be 25 feet long, weigh as much as vehicles, and can eat prey the size of small livestock. Well, not routinely, Quinn said thoughtfully. Pythons are considered exotic pets. Most people have dogs or cats. She paused. Though my neighbor has a ball python that's about 6 feet long. Much smaller than Luna, but still very sweet. Your neighbor has another one. Grix stated. Oh, there are lots of people who keep snakes as pets. There are whole communities of reptile enthusiasts. We have meetups and everything. Quinn's enthusiasm was reaching dangerous levels. You should see some of the reticulated pythons at the reptile shows. They make Luna look practically tiny. The remaining aliens absorbed this information with the kind of stunned silence typically reserved for learning that your homeworld's sun was about to go supernova. Bigger than Luna, Vortana finally managed. Quinn nodded happily. Much bigger. Reticulated pythons are the longest snakes in the world. They can get up to 30 feet long. There's this one breeder, who has a female that's 28 feet, and still growing. Absolutely magnificent creature. Luna always gets a little jealous when I show her those photos. The silence that followed this revelation was so profound that you could have heard a credit chip drop in the cargo bay 3 levels down. The remaining aliens in the Rusty Nebula were experiencing what psychologists across the galaxy would later classify as a complete paradigm shift, the kind of mental recalibration that usually required therapy and possibly medication. Krax was the first to move, very slowly reaching for his wallet with the careful precision of someone who had just realized he was standing in a minefield. His massive claws, which minutes earlier he'd been boasting could tear through starship hulls, were now trembling slightly as he placed several credit chips on the bar. I just remembered, he said in a voice barely above a whisper. I have an early flight tomorrow. Vortana was already gathering her things, her compound eyes darting nervously between Quinn and the exit like she expected a 20-foot python to come slithering out of the ventilation system at any moment. Yes, early morning. Very early. Before dawn, actually. Before dawn is good, agreed the Voldorian, who was backing toward the door while maintaining eye contact with Quinn as if looking away might somehow summon Luna through interdimensional space. Dawn is overrated anyway. Quinn watched this exodus with growing confusion. Are you sure you have to go? I have more photos. There's this great one of Luna meeting my parents for the first time. My mom was so excited she baked a cake. This information caused the remaining Tellurian to actually trip over his own feet in his haste to reach the exit. Cake, he muttered, as he scrambled upright. She baked a cake for the snake. Of course she did. Within 30 seconds the cantina had emptied of every alien except for one particularly drunk Zephyrian who had apparently slept through the entire conversation and was now snoring peacefully in the corner booth, his head pillowed on his folded arms. Quinn stood behind the bar, surrounded by half-finished drinks and the kind of profound quiet that suggested she'd somehow single-handedly ended the evening's festivities. She looked around at the abandoned glasses, the hastily left credit chips, and the general atmosphere of a place where everyone had suddenly remembered they had urgent business elsewhere. Huh, she said to herself, beginning to collect the empty glasses. Tough crowd. She was halfway through clearing the tables when the cantina's main door chimed, and another human walked in. This one was tall, blonde, wearing the kind of casual station wear that marked him as either a traitor or a very relaxed diplomat. He glanced around at the eerily empty bar with raised eyebrows. Wow, Quinn, what happened here? Did someone start a fight? Quinn looked up from her cleaning and brightened immediately. Oh hey Marcus, no fight, just showed some photos of Luna to the regulars. They all had to leave suddenly. She shrugged. I think I might have mentioned that reticulated python at the Reptile Expo. You know how people get about snakes. Marcus laughed and settled onto one of the bar stools. Still freaking out the locals with pet photos, I see. The usual drink. Coming right up. Quinn reached for a bottle of genuine Earth whiskey, the expensive stuff she kept for human customers. How was your run to the Outer Rim? Not bad though, I had some issues with customs on Vega 7. They wanted to inspect everything twice. Marcus accepted his drink gratefully. Oh, speaking of inspections, guess what I picked up while I was in the Sol system? Quinn paused in her cleaning. Please tell me you didn't smuggle anything dangerous through 3 different customs checkpoints. Dangerous? Me? Marcus grinned and pulled out his own communicator. I just wanted to show you some pictures of my new puppy. Quinn set down her cleaning rag and leaned forward with genuine interest. You got a puppy, what kind? Well, she's a rescue, so we're not entirely sure of the breed mix, but the shelter thinks she's part German Shepherd, part Rottweiler, and part something they described as probably Wolverine. Marcus swiped through his photos with obvious pride. Her name's Ripley. The first photo showed what appeared to be a small fluffy creature with oversized paws and the kind of innocent expression that suggested she had absolutely no idea she was going to grow up to be roughly the size and temperament of a small bear. Oh, she's adorable, Quinn exclaimed. How big is she going to get? Well, the vet estimates somewhere between 90 and 120 pounds, assuming she doesn't get any bigger than her father. Marcus scrolled to another photo. This is her playing with my neighbor's kids. She's incredibly gentle with children, but apparently she's already showing some impressive protective instincts. The photo showed the puppy, who had clearly grown considerably since the first picture, standing alert next to two small children in what appeared to be a backyard. Even at her current size, it was obvious that Ripley was going to be a formidable presence when fully grown. Protective instincts? Quinn asked. Oh yeah. Last week a delivery driver came to the door and started raising his voice about a damaged package. Ripley just walked over and sat down between him and me, not making any noise or being aggressive, just present. The guy immediately got very polite and apologetic. Marcus grinned. Turns out having a 90-pound muscle machine calmly staring at you is very motivating for good customer service. Quinn nodded approvingly. Smart dog. Luna does the same thing, though her version of being protective involves draping herself across the hallway so nobody can get past her. I bet that's effective. Incredibly. Though my mailman still hasn't quite gotten used to it. Poor guy nearly fainted the first time he encountered her. Marcus laughed and swiped to another photo. This is Ripley helping with home renovations. Turns out she has very strong opinions about interior decorating. The photo showed his puppy, now clearly approaching her adult size, with what appeared to be the remains of a throw pillow distributed artistically around a living room. Her expression suggested she was quite pleased with her contribution to the home improvement project. She's got style, Quinn observed. Very modern abstract approach. That's what I told my insurance company. Marcus took another sip of his whiskey, though they seemed less impressed with her artistic vision than I was. Quinn grinned and reached for her own communicator. Well, since we're sharing pet photos, let me show you Luna's latest pictures. My sister sent some yesterday. As she scrolled through her device, the cantina's door chimed again. Both humans looked up to see a nervous-looking Grixian trader peering cautiously around the entrance. Excuse me, the alien called out hesitantly. Is it safe to come in? I heard there was some kind of situation with dangerous creatures. Quinn and Marcus exchanged glances, then looked back at the Grixian with identical expressions of friendly confusion. Dangerous creatures? Quinn asked. Oh, you mean our pets? The Grixian's tentacles began to twitch ominously. Pets? He repeated weakly. Yeah. Marcus said cheerfully, holding up his communicator to show Ripley's latest photo. Want to see my new puppy? The Grixian took one look at the image of Ripley, now fully grown and grinning with the kind of canine enthusiasm that displayed an impressive array of very large teeth, made a sound like a deflating airbag, and promptly fainted. Quinn and Marcus stared down at the unconscious alien, then looked at each other. I really don't understand, Quinn said thoughtfully. Why everyone gets so weird about pets. Marcus nodded in agreement and raised his glass. To Earth pets, he said solemnly. The galaxy's most misunderstood ambassadors. To Earth pets, Quinn agreed, clinking her glass against his. May they continue to keep life interesting. Outside the cantina's viewport, the stars continued their ancient dance, blissfully unaware that somewhere in the rusty nebula, two humans were casually discussing the care and feeding of creatures that most of the galaxy would classify as weapons of mass destruction. And in a house on a small blue planet, a 12-foot python named Luna was probably curled up on a couch, watching nature documentaries and dreaming whatever dreams 25-foot apex predators dream. The universe, as it turned out, had a sense of humor after all.